Hello, and welcome to an episode of Todd Talks. And Todd Talks people listen. Don't watch the mouth, watch the hands. Today, we are here to do the prediction video for the upcoming death battle of Miles Morales, Spider-Man, versus Deku from My Hero Academia. And I know that a lot of you aren't exactly thrilled with this fight. I'm not the biggest fan of it either. In fact, I just rewatched at least parts, I didn't watch the whole thing, of Deku Asta and Miles Static. And yeah, Miles Static is definitely better. But we're gonna put that aside. We're gonna have faith in the Death Battle team that they're gonna rock this one, especially knowing the feedback that they've gotten from the last ones. And we'll just hope for the best. Always gotta have hope. Isn't that one of the main character traits of these two guys? Let's find out. All right, let's take this from the top again. The world of 1610, Marvel 1610, is collectively known as the Ultimate Verse. This was a bold strategy. Yes, I'm doing comic history. Rejoice. This was a bold strategy by Marvel in the 2000s, headed up by one of the best comic creators ever, in Brian Michael Bendis, to make basically an entirely new universe where the characters still live there. We still know the characters that live there, but we can tweak their backstories, we can tweak their ages, we can have basically a blank slate to do whatever we want. And it was a huge success. It allowed for new paradigms, new relationships, and eventually the death of Peter Parker. And that led to what was then an incredibly controversial decision of not just killing Spider-Man, but replacing him with a brand new original character made just for the Ultimate Verse, Miles Morales. Yes, Miles was controversial. I remember that. Okay? It was a big deal. You want to know how bad it was? It was so bad that George Lopez, who had a late night show at that time, Lopez Tonight on TBS, yes, I'm showing my age, he made fun of it because Miles was half black, half Hispanic. And he made, I remember him making jokes about that because it's like, oh yeah, we finally got Spider-Man, kinda, So Brian, Michael Bendis, and the others had to work to make Miles relatable and lovable, but they got it, they did it, and we can't imagine Spider-Man without him. But he was bitten by a spider that had the Oz formula, which in the Ultimate Universe is how both Peter and Miles got their powers, and Norman Osborn became the Green Goblin. And like Peter, he had, wall sticking, he had enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, the spider sense. He did not have natural webbing. He had to get that from Aunt May, the web shooters from Aunt May. But he did have his own special abilities, mainly with his venom blast, electricity, manipulation of his own electricity. And so I'll dig into that a little bit because there's some fun things to talk about. But the key thing here was that his journey to be Spider-Man didn't just happen because Peter Parker died, and Peter actually saved his parents at one point, but he kind of just fell into it in his own way. He started off really rough. He actually got captured by S.H.I.E.L.D., and only after helping them stop Electro did they agree to let him be Spider-Man. In fact, in the Ultimate Universe, Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, was actually a clone of Peter Parker, and she didn't like that Miles was running around in his outfit for a while, so her blessing was key for him. Then there was his training. Peter may have the way of the spider, but it wasn't exactly for Miles at first, so he had to get training not just from watching old videos of Peter on DVD. Yeah, 2000s. But he would eventually join the Ultimates and get training from them, from Captain America, no less. So now he's considered a master of a hand-to-hand combat, at least in relativity to the other Marvel heroes that he is trained with. And thus his journey began. Now, there was one thing I want to point out about the preview for Miles Morales. They said that his greatest strength over all other superheroes was that he had actual living supporting parents. Kinda. Okay. So Jefferson and Rio Morales were alive when Peter died. because Peter saved them, and when Miles became Spider-Man. The problem was that after Miles became Spider-Man, Rio died during one of his battles with Venom, that universe's version of Venom, and he actually stopped being Spider-Man for a year because he couldn't bear the fact that his mother died basically because of him. It wasn't technically because of him, but still, guilt and all that. So that's Spider-Man no more. He eventually came back, and when he opened up to his dad about who he was, his dad disowned him. He came back eventually, but not exactly living or loving for the most part. Don't worry, there's a twist. You know the twist that's coming. But through his adventures in both his universe and technically in the 616 universe, because he had multiple crossovers with mainline Peter Parker, especially via the Spider-Verse event, which helped kickstart everything for Miles in many ways. No, not the movies, the actual Spider-Verse comic, but that led to the movies. He had numerous adventures fighting all sorts of threats, both familiar and non. Do you actually remember the villains of the Spider-Verse comics, the Inheritors? I'm not even gonna. Just not doing it. Not doing it. So this would eventually lead for Miles to get into the event that would literally change everything for him. Secret Wars. Yes, Secret Wars, not Secret War. This is the sequel, but hey, it was actually a good one, unlike Civil War 2. Why? Anyway, in Secret Wars, Peter and Miles found themselves looking for the source of Emperor Doom's abilities, and that led them to finding the Molecule Man. And the Molecule Man asked them a simple question: "You guys got anything to eat?" And Miles happened to have a burger on him. How no one noticed he had a burger on him in his suit, the world may never know. But he gave it to the Molecule Man, and then after Reed Richards outsmarted Doom again, Molecule Man reset the multiverse for the most part. And don't get me started. He reset the multiverse, and when he did that for the Earth 616 universe, Miles was there. Because the Ultimate Universe was destroyed at this point. Miles, though, was there. And not only was he there, but his mom and dad were both there. And all of his friends were there. Because the Molecule Man made it that way. He decided, I'll just give this kid his life back in full with interest. Okay. So, and yes, in now the mainline universe, 616, Miles Morales has not just his parents, but they do know he is Spider-Man. I believe both of them know. I know Rio does. And they support him. So, see, all comes full circle. But since then, he has been part of numerous groups, including the Avengers. He's been a part of the Champions, which is one of my favorite groups, alongside Miss Marvel, Nova, Richard, what's his name? Not the main Nova, but the younger Nova. I can't remember his name. Sam. Yes, Sam something. Darn, I feel bad for not knowing that. But yeah, he was part of the Champions, who had a great comic run when they were all together with young Cyclops. Cyclops forever. Suck it, Wolverine. The Avengers, and of course, numerous adventures with Peter Parker and beyond. And through that, he has developed his own abilities beyond what he had before. So, for example, his Venom Blast, not symbiote, but his electric Venom Blast, is powerful enough to take out buildings. It can span a wide area to take out multiple enemies at once. It can disrupt people's electricity, internal electricity, and more. And because of how... The downside, of course, is that because of how much it is, it can drain him very, very easily. So he's got to be careful about that. Like I said, he does have web shooters, so he's able to swing around just fine. But he's manipulated his abilities so much that after some training with Misty Knight and Calling Wing, apparently, he actually can turn his electricity into a sword, which is literally easy enough to chop through vampires. Yeah, Marvel's gotten crazy. Marvel's gotten crazy. Marvel is crazy, but more recently, Marvel has had decided, hey, we're gonna have a nice big vampire event. So it was called Blood Hunt. I didn't read much of it, but Miles was a part of that, and he had his sword, which could easily slice through vampires. And it was even stated by Misty Knight that he had to be careful not to kill them because his sword was that effective. So if it can do that to vampires, imagine what it can do to everybody else. Oh, and by the way, Miles is a vampire now. Yeah. I think that's still the case. The guide literally ended after a key thing here. And because he is now a vampire, he went to someone he knew he could trust in Black Panther. And Black Panther gave him a new suit. A vibranium suit. Could that be a turning point? Have to wait and see. But regardless of this, Miles is as good-natured as Peter, if not more in some ways. And much like in the Spider-Verse movies, he has learned to do things his own way. He's not trying to be Peter Parker. He's trying to be Miles Morales. He is his own Spider-Man. And because of that, and the adventures he's gone on, fans have not only come to love him, he's gotten his own movies, he's gotten his own video games, he's been in the various animated series, and more. And so, while he may have started out as one of the most controversial additions to Marvel in a long time, he is now one of the most beloved Marvel characters, and will continue to hold the mantle of Spider-Man for as long as he dang well pleases. Sup, Danger? Moving on to the world of My Hero Academia. A world where 80% of the population has abilities known as quirks. And these quirks can range from anything, from fire powers to telekinesis to special kinds of ESP or future sight to having a giant head or being a frog. And other weird things. It's all entirely random, mixed with genetics. They never really explain it at points, but just roll with it. In this world, there are many heroes, and there are just as many villains. And then there are those of the next generation who must rise up to take the mantle of hero or villain for themselves and see what they will do in the world. And that brings us to the one and only Izuzu Midoriya. Izuzu Midoriya was the biggest nerd fanboy you've ever met. Like, look, I dig Deku, I do, but dear God, he's an emotional nerd. And I say that as an emotional nerd myself. Tear. I cry watching Death Battles sometimes. This is canon. It's my canon event. Bowser vs. Eggman, Goku vs. Superman 3, and a few others. They're just really, really, really good. But Deku wanted nothing more than to just be a hero that can inspire others, like his biggest hero, his greatest admiration of, I don't know how to say it, idol, there we go, idol, his greatest idol, All Might. All Might was the symbol of peace, the man with the biggest smile ever. I always thought the smile was a bit creepy, if I'm being honest with you. That's my hot take. All Might has a really creepy smile. But he wanted nothing more to be like All Might, to be the number one hero and to have a smile that would inspire people and know that everything is okay because I am here. Yeah. One problem. He was quirkless. Oops. Yes, Deku, for one reason or another, because he never learned about his father, we never learned about the dude. Don't even know his name. He was one of the 20% of the population to be quirkless, so despite all of his good intentions and big heart, he literally could not be like All Might. So imagine his surprise when he does meet All Might finally, and after almost dying because of him, remember he actually tried to shake him off in the air. They have a wild start to the series. Deku was straight up told by All Might, you cannot do this. You cannot be like me. I believe the exact words were, try and do something actually reasonable or something like that. Because at this point, All Might was low. All right, he was putting on the smile, but he wasn't feeling it. You know, Shulk fans, I'm not feeling it. So Deku was crushed, obviously, but through a chance encounter that saw a sludge monster devouring Bakugo, Deku rushed forward, no powers, trying to save his friend, even though his friend was the biggest jerk this side of... I don't know. Bakugo is pretty much in a league of his own when it comes to bulliedom. Like, let's be honest here. But he goes to save Bakugo, and All Might sees this. And so after saving Bakugo and such, he decides, I'm going to give you my power, the truth behind my power. One for all. As Deku would learn, this was an overwhelmingly powerful quirk beyond anyone's imaginations, even viewers, if we're being honest here, because they were smart in building it up over time. Because at first, it sounds like your basic strength quirk. It's about giving your body so much energy that it can do incredible things. And that's why Deku had to get jacked the F up. Okay. No steroids. Not in this anime. Oh, don't give anime steroids. Don't want to think about that. But, I mean, could you imagine? But Deku had to bulk the heck up, and even then, his body could not take the power. But over time, and through the power of friendship, he learned to adjust his ability so that, much like Miles to Peter, Deku would be different from All Might. Because All Might's body could handle it because of just how large he was in his, true form. But Deku was like, I can spread it out through my body and use my legs, just like Ida, to do special attacks. And so thus became full cowling. And through there, and his numerous fights with villains through Class 1A, Deku learned to adapt his power and slowly but surely gain more potential to be the true wielder of One for All. And thank God, because he had to go through some crap. All right, we're not even talking about just the stuff with Bakugo or bringing out Shoto's full potential or totally not admitting how much he liked Uraraka and so on and so forth. He had to deal with the League of Villains and the Paranormal Liberation Front, headed up by Tomura Shigaraki. Wait, didn't we just talk about that dude? Yes, we did. That's the other reason a lot of people don't like this matchup, because it came really close after the Tomura Mahito episode. That was a really good episode. It really was. So, the League of Villains were trying to take over the world, headed up by not just Tomura, but his mentor, the Demon Lord, All for One. And skipping through a few arcs, Tomura became the new vessel of All for One, just like Deku became the vessel for One for All. And of course, they were destined to clash for so dang long. And they did. And they both had to level up their games to do so. And for Deku, this meant unlocking the abilities through the vestiges of the past wielders of One for All. Because Deku and All Might weren't the only ones who had done it. Deku was the 9th wielder of One for All. And through every person that passed with it, their quirk from the past was allowed into Deku. So he could do things like emit a smoke screen. He could float through the air. He can use things called black whips to ensnare an opponent or even move his own limbs if he wants to. He's got a danger sense. He has Fajin, which allows him to store up energy and then unleash it in certain ways. He has gear shift, which can intentionally alter the speed of an object or person. And when using Fajin and Gear Shift together, he can not only achieve foe 100% without destroying his body, he can actually go 120%, which makes him, very tough and very, very powerful. So you'd think that this would make this so easy for him to beat Tomura and All for One. No. You see, the villains were anything but stupid, especially at that point in this series. Tomura became a fierce leader, a fierce warrior of his own, because he had his own quirks, because All for One steals quirks. So he had basically a legion of quirks, and he completely wrecked Hero Society, bringing them into a dark age, to the point where Deku had to basically fight for a long period of time on his own, not even caring about asking for help. He was barely asking All Might for help at that point. All he could think about was just, saving people, and then moving to the next one, defeating the next villain, doing this and doing that. He was wearing himself to the bone, even adopting almost a villain attire because the pressure was just that great to him. Eventually, thanks to Uraraka and others, he was able to come back from the brink and take the fight to Tomura Shigaraki in an all-for-one last time. And while I'll keep the spoilers light for those who haven't seen the anime, or because the final season's coming out soon, or read the final pages of the manga, which I know is very divisive, they win. He is able to defeat Shigaraki, as we know in the Shigaraki episode. But it goes a little bit more than that. He was able to not just defeat him, but it came at the cost of his own powers. Sorry, spoilers. But even with that, he lived on and still strived to be the hero that he wanted to be by being a teacher at UA Academy. And as we find out in a time skip, not only did he become a teacher, but he was gifted a suit by his friends to be a hero once again, and even became the number 4 ranked hero. Let's see, I believe he was after Lemillion, Bakugo, and Shoto. So, that's pretty good company to have in the top 5. And so he was able to be a hero because, as All Might said, it's not about the powers, it's about the heart. And Deku was all about heart. Oh, and he totally got with Uraraka finally. God, thank you! What did it take to the epilogue to do that? Ah! Also, Deku cries, so dang much. I honestly, as much as I like the anime, I really did like the anime. There were times, Deku's, bawling, and I'm like, really, dude? Really? Anyway. So, who wins in a fight between Miles and Deku? So, I know there's a lot of questions here because Marvel is crazy. And the weird thing is that even though it's only been 5 years since Miles and 2 years since Deku, Miles and Static and Deku Asta, a lot's changed for both of them in their own ways. There's the question of, has Miles fought Heralds? Technically, yes. But those are very specific circumstances that don't quite measure up. There was also the question of Miles' vibranium suit that I brought up earlier. Does that count? Yes. I do think they're going to give him that for the most basic reasons. It's current canon. So unless they started this episode's research before that happened, which would have been many months ago, I don't think they would have excluded it, and I'm going to include it personally because it's not the Black Panther suit. And thank you to the wiki for this because they actually did a really good job explaining this to me. Long story short, and I do mean long story short, Miles is now a vampire, and he needs to control his urges, for blood. And so T'Challa was like, I'm going to give you this suit that has a vibranium nano mesh that will do multiple things. One, it will help you control your urges. And then I was about to talk about what happened next. I was like, that's way too complicated. It'll help you control your urges, but it'll also allow you to use your electricity powers more frequently at the cost of being less powerful. So, he could still do the Venom Blast, but it won't tire him out as easily. But it also won't do as much damage. It specifically stated, though, to not be the Black Panther habit, and as such, while it will shield him from most fatal blows, it won't be an end-all, be-all of, you can't touch me. Alright? So, there's that. The problem is with Deku, because in the Deku Asta episode, which, again, I did rewatch, they showed, basically, the build up to the final battle to Shigaraki. At this point in time, the series had not ended, and so certain feats had not been counted, including the final blow to Tomura. And the key thing here, thank you Wiki, is that in the final fight, the final punch, it was stated that Deku was not only on par with All Might, and so all his feats are canon, but he was on par with Tomura, and Tomura even said, you could kill me with one punch, but you refused to kill me, and so you're only defending. So Tomura, as we saw in the last episode, was insanely strong, light speed reaction time, and was able to wipe out whole cities via decay, and yet Deku was powerful enough to defeat him even when Shigaraki had reached his defense form. So that's insane. But the key thing is that in that final attack, which again, no light spoilers, he unleashed a attack so strong that not only did it wipe out Shigaraki and one for all, sorry, all for one, once and all for one, once and for all, but there was a storm going on above them. Basically, long story short, Dabi, Shoto, and Endeavor had a Todoroki battle royal, and it created a storm that covered much of the planet, including Japan and America. The reason I'm mentioning that will become clear in a second. When Deku did this attack to stop Tomura, he attacked so powerfully that he didn't just punch a hole in the sky like the second My Hero Academia movie that they always love to reference, which was 80 teratons of TNT per punch. Okay, that was Deku Asta. All right, so 80 teratons of TNT to punch a hole in the sky. It didn't just punch a hole in the sky. It cleared the storm all over Japan and over America, to the point that Deku's attack was going to cause heavy winds across America for the next few days. Make that make sense. Now, that's a level of power that Miles absolutely does not deal with on the regular, not even with everything that he's had to deal with Venom and Carnage in both universes, and the Spider-Verse with the Inheritors and so on and so forth. He is not one who deals with that on the regular, and he certainly doesn't have that level of power nor endurance on his own. And as for endurance, while the Venom Blast could theoretically make Deku immobile, Black Whip makes it so he can move when he's immobile. He's done that in the past. He's endured insane amounts of pain and kept going because he knew that the job wasn't done and he needed to save the day. Smiling even in the face of great danger. What's up, danger? So even with the vibranium suit, which admittedly is a big tipping point towards Miles, Deku just tips it all the way back by saying, yeah, I'm still stronger than you. You can't kill me easily. He definitely has better mobility than Spider-Man because of float and his air gauntlets, which I forgot to mention earlier, which can basically help him fly. So he could easily just outrange him, not to mention to take him out of the zone entirely, by bringing him up into the sky. The web shooters can be broken, which would hinder Miles' mobility. Anyway, Danger Sense and Spider Sense are basically the same thing, so they counteract each other. And the radar sense that Miles has needs intense focus, so Miles would only be able to use it once before Deku's like, oh, I gotta keep moving so he can't concentrate, or I'd keep the pressure on so he can't use it, that kind of thing. And remember, Spider Sense and Danger Sense does not mean they can't get hurt. It just means they sense the danger, and then they can try to avoid it. Both get hit plenty of times. And Deku's lost his arm a couple times. The kid's gone through a lot. So, even with a vibranium suit and the craziness of the Marvel Universe, it is apparent to me that Miles is going down again. And Deku will be the one for all of us to cheer for. So yeah, I am picking Deku to win this death battle. And with that, I end this episode of Todd Talk. Who do you think is going to win between Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and Deku? How big do you think they're going to go for the fight to kind of make up for past sins? And who do you think is going to be next? Because they are teasing something big next time. Because I think next episode is 199, and then we got 200. So we'll see. Oh, one more thing. Next Sunday, which is the death battle, I will be at a Comic-Con, so I will not be likely able to do a reaction video until Monday. So don't panic. I'm alive, hopefully. Hopefully. But I will do my reaction video when I can. So just wait for me. Wait for me. So, thank you for watching. You made it as far I know you're listening, and I'll see you around.